So you're thinking about moving to Toronto? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Toronto, Canada. I had filmed this video a few months back, but everything that I said is 100% accurate and I loved it. So I'm still going to play that video here for you guys, but I did add a secret bonus tip at the end. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living and moving to Toronto, then you're definitely going to want to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification so that you could be notified of all the current trends happening in Toronto. My name is Amanda Azzarito, and we get calls and emails daily from people just like you who are looking to move to Toronto, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, you're definitely going to want to click that link down below, fill out our call form so we can set up a call and make that smooth move for Toronto for you. Now let's get straight into this video. Let's talk about the cons of living in Toronto. Number one, I would say that the houses are quite expensive here. So the average price home in the city is $1 million and up. Also, the rent average for a one-bedroom apartment is about $2,000 per month in the city. So one thing I would like to say about this con is that yes, it's true, houses are quite expensive here in the city, but just know that there is a lot of different neighborhoods and there are some that are more affordable than others. Now, the second one I would say is the cost of living here is a lot higher as well. So people need to be making at least $40,000 per year just to meet the cost of living if you want to live here in the city. Also, I found out that Toronto is actually ranked number 10 in the whole world in terms of the most expensive cities to live in. The next one I would say is finding childcare, and that childcare in general is just really expensive here in Toronto. There are very long wait times just to actually get on like the waiting list and actually get a spot into daycare here in the city. So if you are planning to move to Toronto and you do have children, you're definitely going to want to plan that ahead before you even start to plan the move, because wait times can be quite long. Next, I would say traffic. Okay, so there is tons of traffic, especially if you're actually in the city downtown. So Toronto is ranked the worst traffic in Canada. So be aware that is going to be an issue if you don't like to be stuck in traffic. And that brings me to the next one, which is parking. Okay, it is not easy to find parking. There's always different rules changing all the time with the parking. I think now it's like you're allowed 3 hours max before you get like ticketed, even on an in-street, not on a public street. So it's always changing. Expect to spend about $25 per day on average if you're going to be using a parking lot in downtown Toronto. And then of course there is winter, okay? I know a lot of you don't like the winter, and even though in Toronto, compared to the rest of Canada, the winters are a lot more mild compared to the rest of Canada, it is still quite cold. It gets very cold here. We get all 4 seasons, which is nice. But if you don't like the winter, it is quite long here. You can expect to have winter for at least 4 months. All that to say, if you don't like winter, that is a part of living in Toronto. It is quite long and it is quite cold, so prepare for that. And then the last con I would say is Toronto is known for being kind of like snobby. People are not really that friendly. It's funny because I've lived here all my life and I don't see it, but I hear that from other people. And in general, Canadians are known for being friendly. We are really friendly. I think in Toronto, the difference is like we're not overly friendly with people we don't know, with strangers. When we get to know people, we become super friendly. But at first, you know, it's not like typical just to be walking around and be like, hey, good morning, how are you? To a stranger. Like that wouldn't happen in Toronto. You would just be like, we're just like, you know, it's a busy city, just like everyone's moving around, like have things to do, have places to go. So that's kind of the vibe. All that to say, guys, we are friendly. We're just not like overtly friendly that you will see in other places. All right, so now it's time to talk about the pros of living in Toronto. I would say the first pro, which is pretty obvious, is that Toronto is known for being a very multicultural city and a very diverse city. We are like the melting pot of Canada and one of the biggest melting pot cities in the world. Just so you could get an idea, half of Torontonians are actual immigrants. So there is a lot of diversity here, and you can see it in the city, right? Like there are a whole bunch of different areas like Little Portugal, Little Italy, Koreatown, etc. There are so many different places. So there's so many different cultures here, which I really enjoy, and I would say is a big pro to Toronto. Which brings me to the next one, which is the food. The food here is amazing. Because we are multicultural, you will get all type of food here. It almost feels like you can travel, like it's like you're traveling, because you can literally get any type of food here in the city. And there's so many great restaurants and bars that are opening up all the time, honestly. So you can never run out of like lists of places to go and eat here in the city. Which also brings me to the next one, which is there's so much entertainment here, okay? There is so much to do in the city all the time, even in the winter time, honestly. But the summertime, it's just like at another level. There's so many festivals, there's so many parades. There's just always something going on. Plus, like I mentioned before, so many restaurants and bars, clubs, like there's literally everything for everyone, whether you are single, whether you are a couple, or you have a family. There are so many activities here in the city for all types of people. And then of course, if you're into sports, we have all the major sports teams here in the city. For example, in the NBA, Toronto is the only team in the NBA that represents Canada, and so here in the city we have a team for all the major sport leagues. If you're into sports or concerts, Toronto is the place to be in Canada for sure. So with this pro that I'm going to be talking about, it's a little bit contradicting to one of the cons, which is there's a lot of housing options. Okay, so even though houses are quite expensive here, there are so many housing options because there are so many cool little areas in the city for different vibes, for different people. And so there are an unlimited amount of different areas. So there is an area for every taste and lifestyle. Next, I would say that it is a huge economic hub. So the city, Toronto, is definitely the biggest hub for Canada when it comes to, business. All the major businesses have their headquarters here in the city. The city is also really known for having a startup scene, okay? So this is a really great place if you are an entrepreneur looking to start a business. Studies show that Toronto's startup scene is worth $17 billion. And the city actually offers early stage funding at 3x the amount that the average is worldwide. All right, so this is a great place for that. I would say the next thing is that the school system is really good here, especially for universities and colleges. U of T, which is our biggest university here in the city, is one of the top ranked, not only in Canada, but in the world. Next, I would say low crime. So compared to other cities, I believe that Toronto has a very low crime rate here. Overall, you are gonna feel safe. I've lived here most of my life. I have noticed that it seems like, crime is increasing since I was a kid, but that only makes sense as the population of the city keeps increasing, right? We have 3 million plus people here in the city. So that's very normal that in cities that the crime is usually higher. However, I actually looked into this, and so Toronto is ranked number 6 in the world for safest cities to live in. So compared to a lot of other cities that you could be moving to, Toronto is very safe. I know I feel very safe here in the city. I always have, so that's what I would say. Next, I would say the healthcare. So as you guys know, in Canada, you do get free healthcare, right? We pay it through our taxes. So that's great in itself. But in general, Toronto has some amazing healthcare and one of the best doctors and surgeons in all of the world. There are people who travel here just to see certain surgeons and doctors. We also have some of the top rated hospitals in all of the world here in the city. So For this last one, I'm gonna be saying transportation, but there is some pros and cons to it. So I would say that the transportation is good, like you have access to TTC, subway, streetcars, all that kind of stuff, which is great. But most cities do have that. I would say Toronto is lacking in that, in the sense that we don't have enough subway stations, I believe. Like if you compare to other cities, I remember going to New York and being like, well, they have so many lines on their subway. We don't. So that is something that is, I would say, a con. There is a lot of wait times with the subway. So those are things to keep in mind. So I would say it's a pro and a con. It's a pro because we have them, but it's not the best compared to other cities when you think about transportation. Now, another pro though is our airports. So we do have the biggest airport just outside of the city called Pearson International, which is the biggest airport here in Canada, and it goes to all major cities. Like you can get a direct flight to almost all major cities all around the world. So if you are a traveler, this is a great city to be in because it's easy to travel to so many different places. So I think that is definitely a plus. But we do have an airport in the actual city, Billy Bishop. So if you do want to catch flights that are more local, like just to the US or other places in Canada, that's going to be a really great option for you that's actually in the city. And like I promised, I have a bonus secret tip about Toronto that nobody shares about. We all know that Toronto is known for its huge attractions like the CN Tower or Casa Loma. But there is one huge attraction that the locals love that is so overlooked by most people, and that is Toronto Islands. The Toronto Islands is in the heart of the city, downtown, and as it sounds, it's literally on an island, so you have to take a boat to get there, which is really cool. These small islands offer beautiful beaches, bike rentals, cafes, restaurants, a beautiful escape from the urban life with stunning views of the Toronto skyline like no other. Visiting the Toronto Islands is a must-do activity here in the summer in the city, and it is overlooked by most people, whether visitors or even locals. That's going to be it for today's pros and cons video. If you guys like today's video, definitely click that like button. And if you want, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you love best about Toronto. If you're thinking about making that move to Toronto, you're definitely going to want to click that link down below, fill out our call form, and we will set up a call with you and help you make that smooth move to Toronto. And if you're interested in seeing more Toronto neighborhood videos and tours, you're definitely going to want to see this video next. Until next time, see you around the city and God bless.